sitting in the middle of the fairy garden. We've come out of the full moon ceremony and the flowers needed to be on the earth, and you can see the beautiful little setup there, but the flowers needed to be on the earth. It's very interesting. So in the fairy garden today, I am doing our psychic reading for happiness. Yeah, our psychic reading for happiness is in the middle of the fairy garden. Like, it needed to be in the fairy garden. It came through really strong on our full moon ceremony. A blessing of the fairy magic was the overlying card reading, and we literally repaired the ley lines and reawakened the sleeping giants and all of those that had been damaged. It was a very, very powerful full moon ceremony this morning. Let's just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. So in the fairy garden magic, I am going to do our psychic reading for happiness. And it feels very powerful because it's the full moon in Aries, which is the beginning of new cycles that I'd shared about as well. Oh, that's so interesting. You've been told to chat with the Fae to help find your next home, because it was very deep. So if you want to join that full moon ceremony, you still can. Just type in moon in the comments and I'll send you the link to the full moon ceremony. It is a paid ceremony that you join us for. But it was very much about reawakening the ley lines and repairing the ley lines. We were given an amulet. It was pretty special. And it is very much about your gifts. It was the Aries it was so powerful because, hang on, let me just share this. It was really, really powerful. It was, you know, like, and every full moon is so different. Like, we just come out and we're like, wow, every time, because the energy is like where we're taken to and what we're showing and all of those pieces is very different each full moon. Obviously, they're all very different energies. Yeah. Driving to Karatha, powerful. Okay, so I'm just going to share this and then I'll concentrate because, you know, trying to multitask and I'll share it in the wrong spot if I do. So just give me a second. Okay, here we go. There we go. I concentrated. I concentrated. Now let me take me back so I can see your comments. And I just had to make myself a cup of tea because I got cold. As soon as ceremony finished, I was like cold. So I turned the heater on and made myself a cup of tea to warm up. But during ceremony, hot. Always hot energy pouring through. So, okay, awesome. So I love my energy that I've been having. Awesome. Yeah, it's a start of a new cycle. Like, and it's interesting because this time of year has, you know, is always quite heavy with Halloween and dark Scorpio through November. Like, it can be very dark, and it feels like this is a, you know, like with the new moon. It's what it feels like. It feels like a new energy. It's a full moon, but it's a start of a new cycle. Like, if there was ever a new year energy, it's now with this new moon. I keep saying new moon with the full moon in Aries. Yeah. So Aries is the start of a new astrological cycle. Like, it's the start of it's the start of the astrological cycle, right? And it just feels like it could be a new year. Like, that's the feeling of the energy with the beginnings, with the new cycles. Like, it feels like there's so much of the old that has passed away, that has disappeared, like it disintegrated. Like, it's like they don't have their power anymore. You know, the power has been given back to those people who will disperse it correctly, you know, with ethics, with humanity in mind, so to speak, you know. So it's very, very powerful in that. So if you still want to, and you know, it's so interesting, you're like being told to connect with the Fae to help you find a new home. Like literally the Fae, as I said, came through so strongly. So we started off with the beautiful fairy blessing cards, and they were just so strong. And I was like, and then the flowers had to be on the earth. And then like one of the cards was literally like connecting with the flower gardens of the Fae, and I was like, oh, that's why the flowers needed to be on the earth with us. Like, okay. So powerful, so powerful. Scorpion born under the new moon. Yeah, so, you know, it doesn't surprise me that you were told to connect with the Fae to help you find a new home, because the Fae, you know, like in that full moon ceremony, we literally did a lot of repair to the ley lines of the earth. Yeah, so very, very powerful. So as we tap into our psychic reading for happiness, I feel excited to do this with the Fae energy around and the beautiful flowers. Who doesn't, you know, whose soul doesn't lift when we see beautiful flowers and see beauty, and I think this is a big part of the happiness. So I did a live stream for joy. Yeah, I did a psychic reading for joy, and this is a psychic reading for happiness. Now, someone could say that they're one and the same. Ultimately, they're on the same spectrum, of course. However, they're very different energies. Joy and happiness are very, very different energies, and is why I wanted to give them their own live stream of their own. Yeah. So first of all, before I dive into this, so I was going to run the psychic protection course for 5 weeks. I've actually decided to change it to a 2-week course, but we're going to do 5 classes in 2 weeks. So it's going to be very tight, and it feels so good to do it this way. I feel like this information needs to get out very quickly, if you may, before Halloween. So we're starting on the 21st next week. So it'll be 2 weeks that we're going to dive into 5 classes of psychic protection 111. So it's like calling your emergency number, but it's 111. It's a bit of a laugh from spirit with that one. So we're starting that. Is it next week? Is that when the 21st is? So if you want to join that, just type in psychic below. But I feel excited to like take that over a 2-week period and 5 classes, because it just feels like it's a very power thing, and it's very similar energy to this full moon in a way of the ceremony that, you know, was really coming through. It's like our power, and it's very much about where you place your power in the world. And so many people have been taught to call on the archangels or this or that, and you know, it's a stage of a spiritual journey. It's a stage of spiritual awakening. However, as a collective, that spiritual awakening is past, if you may. Like, it's still present and still very important. And so we're going to talk about beginners, medium and advanced in the psychic protection course. So it is over 2 weeks, and yeah, we're starting that next week. So just type in psychic below if you want to join us for that. Okay. If you want to work with me one-on-one, Goddess Codes is available, and that's my 4-month one-on-one with me. And I love doing the 4 months, because 4 is a very stabilizing number. I've done 3-month programs before, but the 4 is a total different energy. Yeah, it's a total different energy. So if you want to work one-on-one, send me a private message just saying Goddess, and we can talk about Goddess Codes. So when we tap into a psychic reading for happiness, as I said before, it's a different energy to joy. So, and I really want to talk about happiness as a way to pull yourself out of depression. You know, something so important to remember is that, I don't know if it's a spiritual text that I saw somewhere along the way, but it was very much like we weren't, sounds crazy, we weren't born to be happy, in a sense of the more correct understanding of that is that society is not trained to be happy. Society is trained to be unhappy, unsatisfied, depressed, because there's money in that, okay? When somebody is happy and loving life, they don't need pharmaceuticals. They don't need half the stuff they need, right? When somebody is happy and fulfilled, there's no money in that. So of course they're going to train society in this like loop that keeps us depressed, insane, all the things. Okay, you guys know that. So when we talk about a psychic reading for happiness, let's differentiate between happiness and joy first. So happiness is, you know, okay, so let's talk about joy. So joy is that deep-seated joy, okay? It's that deep undertone that you know that you're on the right path. Joy is, you know, and I spoke in depth of it in the psychic reading, so you can scroll back on my page to find that. By the way, I'm putting all the replays for a psychic reading 4 in this series of health and wellness and helping physical ailments. I'm putting them all on a specific page on my website. So if you want that, just type in page and then you'll have the link and you can always watch all the replays there. So joy is that deep undertone that everything is okay. And even though the world might be falling apart, there's this solidarity. It's a satiated joy. It's a deep feeling of satisfaction. It's not a addictive joy, if you may, you know, as I said about, you know, like addictions is a quick fix, you know, and there's any addiction can come under that banner, of course, and it's a quick fix and it's up and then we've got a high and a low, right? So joy, the deep-seated joy, is a sustainable joy. It's always there. It doesn't go up and down. It's just a solid, like, connection. You feel grounded. You feel, you know, it's that deep Buddha belly laugh. Like, it's the contentment. It's satiated. Yeah, it's not a quick fix up and down and high and low and like, oh, we feel shit afterwards, right? Like, no, it's deep-seated joy. Happiness could be seen as that quick fix joy, okay? Now let me describe this deeper. So happiness, I personally feel, is a I don't know, how do we draw this? So if depression is deep and dark, okay, and heavy, right? And joy is maybe up here in like a, you know, the sustainable life force of, you know, contentment, and you know that everything's okay and it's a soul food, yeah? And happiness is, I want to say the lifeline. Happiness is the thread, the rope, the lifeline that takes you to joy, okay? So happiness could be seen as the quick fix, but the way that it pulls us out of depression is that rope gets thicker and thicker into joy, and it starts off with happiness. Now, when we're depressed, there's not much to be happy about. And something that is so, I want to say nourishing, but it has to be done consistently, and you have to understand the concept that every time you do it, you're making that rope just a little bit thicker and a little bit thicker and a little bit thicker, and it does get thicker and it does get stronger and stronger, and the happiness does last longer and longer. But in the beginning, it won't, okay? In the beginning, you're like, what's the point of doing this? I don't feel any different, okay? And happiness can be found in the little things, right? And so, for example, with depression, if you don't feel loved or whatever you're depressed about, like it's like turning to your animal or your whatever makes you feel loved. Like even if you're like not feeling it, but you know that like that does make you happy. So for example, I'm going to talk with animals, right? So for example, with animals, like they give us unconditional love. Like, do you know what I mean? Like your cat or your dog or your rat or your bird or whatever animal you've got, your fish, like it's always happy to see you. Like they're like, okay, what are we doing? Or let me sit on your lap, or let me be next to you. Let me, like, you know, and even when you're just like they're still there, okay? Like it's pure unconditional. Like they just want to be with you most of the time, right? Unless they're a cat and they go off and do their thing, you know what I mean, right? So with an animal, it's a way to start tapping into that little thread of happiness, of love. Like even though it might feel like a cotton thread or a hair thread, you want a really big, thick, like super yacht rope, right? But you know, all it feels like is it's as thin as a hair, and it doesn't really fulfill you. But what you have to understand is when you're doing this with the conscious concept that you're building the thick rope to joy, okay, it's a muscle. Anything is a muscle. We get good at something and we open our heart back up and we start receiving more with practice. Okay, and this is happiness. What are the little things that can bring you happiness during the day? The thing that makes you smile when your cat's being silly and running around or whatever. Like it's you know, when you catch yourself in that and you're like, oh, and then instantly you're depressed again. Okay, like let that be okay. In your conscious knowing that, oh my God, there was a thread there. There was a hairline thread of happiness that was leading me to joy that my cat was giving me for a split second. Like, let that be the little opening. Let that be the food. Okay? Because then tomorrow you're going to find two things that, oh, like then the dog fell over, or I don't know. I don't know. And maybe it's not an animal, maybe it's something else. But when you can actually see how much is around you and consciously make that choice, that hairline is going to grow into a cotton thread, is going to grow into a braid, it's going to get thicker and thicker, and out of the darkness of depression, this little bits of happiness are starting to open like flowers, and are starting to, you know, there's more of them around, and you're starting to change your perception of even what's around you, of how much happiness is around you. Now, this could happen over the space of 3 months, and it might feel more depression than happiness over 3 months. Okay, I'm not talking overnight, but you could pull yourself out overnight. Okay, but I want you to know that I'm not talking about overnight. Okay, because you might be like, well, it doesn't really work, Hannah. Okay, but I want you to look at it over a 3-month period, okay, or a 6-week period, and I want you to really work on building these happiness hairline threads that turn into cotton threads, that turn into a braid that's actually quite thick now. Don't know why I'm using hair, but we know that hair is a deep connection to our source and our spirit, okay? So when you can really pull on these threads and start adding them up over your day, okay, and then also support that as well by writing down things that you're grateful for, or things that made you smile today before you go to bed, or even consciously choose to think of that. And when you wake up in the morning, you're probably going to feel like shit and go straight for your addictions or whatever, you know, want to go back to sleep or whatever it is. But I want you to start choosing to consciously think about those things that made you happy. I'm actually happy in my nice warm bed. Like, I don't want to leave here. Like, we'll be okay with that. Like, that's a thread of happiness there. Fuck what anyone else thinks about the judgments that you don't want to get out of bed today. Like, let yourself have that moment of happiness. And even if it is going straight for the coffee or whatever your thing is, like, let that be your thing of happiness. Fuck what anyone else says. Okay, because these little threads of happiness is the things that's taking you to the joy that's bringing back your sustainable life. Let's have a look what the cards say about this, because I didn't look at the cards yet. I just pulled them. So the hand of Fatima. So I'm reading from Rumi, the Rumi Oracle. Whoops, book just fell out. The Rumi Oracle. There we go, that was looking for the light. Rumi, and also the daily guidance from the angels. So, the hand of Fatima, and a blessing in disguise. See, in this darkness, Fatima, thank you. The blessing in disguise, and the hand of Fatima. This is very, if I remember correctly from the book, is very much about, she's always reaching down to pick you up. I think there's more to that. Let me just check. And just for those of you who get scared about like doing psychic readings and you're like, oh, but I have to still like read out of the book. I'm like, do you know how many times you've seen me read out of the book? I'm like, just really pointing it out. I've been reading cards since 2005. You know, like it's okay to look in the book. Okay, interesting. This oracle brings you the message that your body is sacred and worth your attention. You do not have to become obsessed. You do not have to push or judge your body, but you can honor him or her as a sacred animal through which your spirit creates soul and expresses itself in the world. This is a truly wonderful and amazing gift, extraordinary and yet fraught with challenge. the spirit can be powerful. Sometimes it can be hesitant too, enough to really engage with the body and come to life. So alongside those little happiness threads is forcing yourself, when you do not feel like it, to exercise, to walk, to push your body when you don't feel like it, because that gives the happy chemical hormones. So alongside the little threads, alongside being okay with your support systems, bed, coffee, whatever it is also pushing yourself to go for a walk when you do not feel like it, because you know that that's going to give you the happy chemicals in your brain. You are giving birth to more spirit than you have ever held before. When you're in a depressive stage, you're pushing down your spirit. We've talked about this in the depression. And so the depression is pushing you and birthing you through. It's a bit of like a birth portal there, the hand reaching up, the hand reaching down. And the happiness comes from knowing that this is squeezed through into the new life. Also the little thread that's growing, yeah? Interesting. So Fatima holds the wildness of the divine feminine wisdom and the sanctity of life. She has great gifts of ecstatic presence, only able to be experienced through the spirit living in the body, right? And this is where, when we're disconnected, we're depressed, pushing down, we're pushing away the happiness, which is our soul, which is fueled and sustained at the joy. If you haven't watched my joy live stream, please watch that. So the happiness pulls us out, a little happiness, and then over time, the happiness is just totally there all the time because it's very thick now, because you've been focusing on it rather than the little portal that you're squeezing through that you got stuck at, so to speak, right? Okay, this oracle advises you that if you ask for help and protection in any manner, it will be granted. There is no exception to this rule. There is nothing you have done that has made you unworthy of divine intervention, love, and grace, but you have to be open to receive it. It says ask, trust, and receive. So the receiving is starting to open those threads, okay? Blessing in disguise, because there's something coming in for you. There's something trying to come in for you and you're pressing it away. No, it's time to open up to that, okay? In the right now card is Merciful Mother Jamal. I'll just find, oh, it's right here. It's the next card in the deck. How interesting. Merciful Mother Jamal. You are a blazing angel capable of so much. You evoke the testing hand of life. Why not when you cannot fail? See, there's no such thing as failing. This is a part of you stepping into your next evolution of self. Stop pressing it down and let yourself be happy. It's okay to be happy. Look how beautiful and bright that sun is. Yeah, the sun is blessing you in your life, and it's time for you to open the threads and let that in. I want to say, I keep wanting to say it's okay to be happy. Like, it's okay to be happy. Your divine inheritance, this is your birthright. It's time to receive it, yeah? This oracle brings you the message that the great power of compassion is reaching for you, that it wants to help you, but is waiting for you to ask. It's waiting for you to open those threads, to let it in. So ask and then you shall receive. And notice the signs, notice how close it is, right? I feel like with the happiness, as we start opening these threads, yes, we start opening these threads and we consciously choose to make the threads bigger, as we consciously choose to focus on those threads, as we consciously choose to focus on those happiness points, there is nothing that you cannot receive. And notice the signs when you have started asking, because you've been focusing on that and pulling yourself out, right, and reconnecting to the joy of yourself and your soul that is you in your body, that is you in your life, and you have been receiving the signs. It's so interesting that I posted Archangel Michael just yesterday, and it is about noticing the signs, because what's the signs? Oh, the signs are the thickness happening and that's more in your reality now, right? And what's so interesting is the final outcome card. Look, it's the joy. What have we been saying? The happiness is the thread that connects to the sustainable joy. And look at this one, the lover and the beloved. And it's like everything that you are asking for comes into the picture when you start opening right? And you start opening to the happiness. You have to be willing, you can ask for it, but if you're not willing to receive it, it's not going to come in. But when you start noticing the signs, it gets thicker. That joy thread connects you, and that becomes your sustainable joy. That becomes the essence of who you are, and everything comes in. Now, whether this is a lover, whether this is a relationship, or whether this is your masculine and feminine coming into deep balance, which fuels this even more, then in that beautiful divine balance, everything exists. Yeah, everything is there. The overlying card, so interesting, is family and the whirling goddess. It's like goddess codes. Everything comes in and stabilizes in the goddess codes. Very, very powerful. So 30, let me just have a look here. The whirling goddess. Lose your head. Not a single thread that has a head can go through the eye of the needle. Come, my love, are you dizzy? Yeah. If you can find your feet, then that is okay with me. But if you can still find your head, then I will take issue. There is a great dance, but it cannot be danced in choreographed steps. No, this great dance demands a response rather than an initiation, a reaction rather than a direction. So let us dissemble and lose our heads to the great music, the rhythm held steady in our beating hearts. Our feet shall be moving whilst our minds inadequate to the task. Take the night off. Meaning, follow your heart, follow the happiness. It doesn't have to make logical sense, but it has to you. It has the happiness, like the sustainable joy and your own, it's like your own personal recognition, your own self, your soul, the next evolution of your soul isn't a logical step. It's in the whirling goddess. It's in the trust and the joy. It's in those things that bring you joy. It's in the divine balance of your own self, which is your own soul coming into the deep recognition of self, of you letting yourself receive yourself. And in that, everything is received. Yeah? This oracle brings you a message. You are at the point of growth where your mind can hold you back rather than urge you forward. What have we just been talking about? The choice to choose the happiness, to thicken the threads, to connect to the joy that brings you the deepest, balanced, evolutional self and life that you've been asking for. Your mind is the choice to use your mind in this space, in this message. You're being asked to dance rather than understand. To lay the thoughts to rest and to come alive. It is the bravest, most trusting soul that dares to put the mind to one side and say, tonight we dance, my heart and I, in the great rousing music of the beloved's beating heart. And I will not miss one step. And to awaken the next day and do it all over again and again and again and again and again. It's choosing the joy, it's choosing the things that make you happy and repeating that so that the threads become the biggest sense of joy and that becomes the essence of your being. And in that is the power of the manifestation. Yeah? The manifestation is in the connection. Manifestation isn't when it's tangible, it's in the connection. It's in the feeling. You've already manifested it when you're feeling it. Yeah. All right. I love it. Absolutely incredible. Yes. Yes. Been choosing to stay in bed. Yeah, exactly. And that's really powerful in going with the ebbs and the cycles and the flows. And that's very connected to the Fae and trusting the cycles and really working with your body and the rhythm and the elements. That's like ultimate. For your intuition, for your life purpose, for everything to manifest, like 100% is staying connected to the cycles, yeah? Big time. Love it. Love it. Yay, this is so awesome. So glad that it's helped you guys. Yes. No thought but the rhythm of life taking you away in the dance of love. Yeah. And it first begins with self. It always begins with self. Asking and receiving and the divine balance of self. You have to love yourself. We always hear that, right? But it comes in a choice to choose the happiness in every little thought. So we have our psychic protection course starting next week. Like I said, I'm going to do it over 2 weeks and going to do 5 classes in that 2 weeks and really bring that home. It feels like it needs to come out now, not over 5 weeks. So I'm really excited to bring it over 2 weeks. You know, there's a lot of people that have been telling me that their psychic protection doesn't work anymore. I'm going to discuss that. I'm going to discuss the changing evolution of the collective consciousness and why your old tools don't work anymore. Whether you're beginners or advanced, the psychic protection course that we're going to do is going to cover all of those pieces. So just comment psychic below and we can send you the link for the course next week. If you want to work one-on-one with me, my Goddess Codes is open. That is 4 months, which is a deep stabilizing number. So I've done 3-week programs, done 3-month programs. I've done, you know, many different programs, but the Goddess Codes brings in a different frequency, a different energy. It's a very activating space. It's an elevating space. Of course, we clear out what is no longer required, but it is deeply in a sense of an essence that shifts you just by being. So if you feel called to Goddess Codes, send me a private message with Goddess and we can have a chat about that. And I shall see you guys really soon. Sending you so much love and happiness.